Thank you, Emma, and good morning to you all. Thank you for joining us. This has been a long time in the making, and we are so pleased to be able to update you on this joint initiative that we truly believe is going to change service delivery in our city. You're going to hear a story about how we've been able to leverage partnerships to achieve transformational change in how we serve those experiencing a mental health crisis or other vulnerabilities. Today, we are pleased to be announcing the Calgary Police Service, Calgary 911 and 211, and that we have begun a 5-month call diversion and co-location initiative to ensure that Calgarians are getting the most appropriate service response in their time of need. As community partners and part of our overall commitment to our city, the CPS, Calgary 911 and 211 have worked collaboratively over the last several months to find a long-term solution to assist people in distress and those who are better served by mental health, addiction, or social services rather than just a police response. Phase 1 of this call diversion project began in early January, and it saw 211 call takers virtually co-locate with Calgary 911 at the Whitehorn Multi-Services Centre. Many of you may have also seen or heard about the Make the Right Call campaign, which launched at about the same time. This was a joint services campaign launched in December, educating people on when to call 211 instead of 911. Starting next Tuesday, call takers will begin looking for opportunities to connect some 911 and non-emergency line callers to either 211 or Distress Centre Calgary. These calls will include non-life-threatening and non-criminal calls that otherwise may have been dispatched to the Calgary Police Service alone. This includes connecting calls from 911 to 211 when the caller expresses the need to speak to someone about their mental health, an addiction, or other resourcing issues where there is no emergency or a need for police. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Commander Glenda Salen from Calgary 911.
Thank you, Superintendent Rashid. This first-of-a-kind call diversion project begins in Calgary. It is really about connecting some 911 callers with appropriate social services instead of a Calgary police response. The goal of this initiative is to support Calgarians in distress with immediate support from local social agencies, including our great partners at 211. 911 is for emergencies, and 211 is for guidance and for support. We want to ensure that the right services are being provided to those in need quickly with an easy alternative to 911. The calls to 211 will include non-emergency, non-violent, and low-risk calls to ensure social supports are made available. Calgary 911 has seen a 30% increase in calls over the last decade from citizens asking for advice regarding domestic violence and social disorder. Some examples may be members of our community experiencing homelessness, mental health, and addiction concerns. This project will ensure that Calgarians are receiving the right kind of help from the right agency at the right time. Call 911 if you are seeing a crime in progress, you see or smell smoke, you see an injury accident, or are witnessing a life-threatening situation. And with that, I would like to turn it over and introduce our partner, Robin Romano, who is the CEO of the Distress Centre Calgary.
Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be here this morning and get to be part of this amazing announcement. Distress Centre Calgary has had a long-standing working relationship with the Calgary Police Service and Calgary 911 for a number of years now, and this co-location call diversion initiative is an exciting demonstration of the strengthening and transformation of that partnership to better serve Calgarians in crisis. 211 is operated by Distress Centre Calgary and works to provide guidance and information for non-emergency issues, such as referrals to resources for mental health, addictions, financial need, shelter and housing, family support, as well as many other concerns. Calls to 211 are answered by a live professional who is trained to assess a caller's needs and help them in navigating the system of the many available resources and services for whatever issue they are facing. 211 specialists further provide advocacy and follow-up support to ensure that connections to services are indeed made and that a caller's needs are met. 211 is available 24 hours a day by just calling or texting 211. This innovative collaboration between Calgary Police Service, Calgary 911, and 211, a program of Distress Centre, is transforming the way that we work together in our city to improve the response to non-emergency mental health-related addiction or other crisis calls by increasing the access to services with the goal of diverting from the police into these community-based agencies when appropriate. This initiative is going to result in better outcomes for Calgarians in crisis by ensuring that our community members are getting connected to the right service at the right time and with the right outcome. Thank you for your time this morning, and we'll now open it up to any questions.
Thank you, Robin, Glenda, and Superintendent Rashid. If there's any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box or just type questions, and I will come to you and we'll get your questions answered. Thanks, Colleen. There's a question from Colleen Underwood. Go ahead, Colleen, or would you like me to read the question?
Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Yeah, okay, great. You never know. Yeah, I was just wondering, I had a couple of questions, but one was just if you could give me an example of a 211 call that currently goes to 911 that maybe people aren't aware that they should be calling.
I can answer that question. Thank you. As I mentioned, we have seen an increase in our calls in the last decade or so, about 30%, non-violent, low-risk calls, and people are just looking for some advice, some support, and some wraparound aftercare. So these are the calls that we anticipate Calgary 911 can work with 211 on, provide the right support for the citizen calling, and with the ultimate goal of some call diversion for the Calgary Police Service.
And so as it is right now, so would somebody be calling 911 and then when the operator realizes the nature of the call, then they'll patch them over to 211? Is that how you'll work it?
So we will be co-located with 211. So the 211 call takers will be embedded in our Calgary 911 Operations Center. And there will be a variety of how the calls are responded to. Some will be jointly co-evaluated, and some will be transferred with a warm transfer over to 211. And a warm transfer means that Calgary 911 stays on the line until 211 picks up, and we ensure that there's no safety concerns, and then 211 would provide the resources.
Okay, just one more question. So is there a point where you would like people to change their habit around calling 911 if it's not, if it's more of a 211 call, or will you be handling it from your end, you know, patching it over to where it needs to go?
I think initially we'll be handling it on our end, but you know, there's certain things that define an emergency: see or smell smoke, life-threatening accident, a life-threatening situation, or a crime in progress, and those will remain 911 calls.
Thanks, Colleen. If you have any others, well, we can come back to you as well. There's a question from Brittany Gervais at Post Media. Is this initiative part of the financial commitment announced between the city and police last June? Can Calgary Police give an update on any other projects in the works around improving crisis response? Superintendent Rashid?
Yes, thank you. That is a great question, one that is quite relevant to this conversation that we're having. So as you'll recall, in June of 2021, the City of Calgary, the Calgary Police Service, and the Calgary Police Commission announced funding for programs and initiatives to advance equitable and effective crisis response systems and develop better ways to support Calgarians in crisis. Of that commitment, 28 initiatives have thus far been funded by the Calgary Police Service, and an equal amount or thereabouts with our city partners as well. To confirm, the Distress Center 211 Calgary 911 co-location and collaboration is one of those 28 initiatives funded under the umbrella of the Community Safety Investment Framework.
Do you have any follow-up to that, Brittany?
Hi, yes, thanks for taking my question. I'm just wondering if Calgary Police can give an update on any other projects in the works around this. Also curious just to how much funding was allocated towards the specific initiative under that umbrella.
Certainly. So I can provide you a brief update. Suffice it to say that this is phase one of a multi-phased suite of services that will be rolled out. As your police service, the Calgary Police Service is fully committed to reimagining how we serve vulnerable Calgarians. We have heard from policymakers and community that oftentimes police aren't the best modality of response. As we've heard from Robin and Glenda and others, this is about connecting the right people with the right resource at the right time. And so we look forward in the next several months into evaluating this pilot, but complementing it with other supports that we'll roll out in the weeks and months to come. I can tell you additionally that of the Community Safety Investment Framework budget reallocation amount, $87,000 was committed to this initiative for a 5-month pilot project with our partners.
Perfect. I'd like to ask a follow-up if possible. Just wondering, you mentioned that this was phase one of some other projects or initiatives that could be rolling out. Is there, can police, I guess, give an example or an idea of what some other phases could look like?
Yeah, no, we are working very closely with our partners, namely the City of Calgary and other organizations across the city. It's really about connecting with vulnerable Calgarians where they are in their trajectory. And so we continue to use this initiative as kind of an evaluative framework to inform subsequent phases of the work. There has been some academic research been brought to light as to where some of the gaps in crisis service delivery exist within our community. And so while I don't have the details about what subsequent phases might look like, this is the first of many phases to come.
Any follow-ups there, Brittany?
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Anybody else have any questions for either of our 3 speakers? Going once, going twice. Okay, thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. Appreciate it.